Now, yes. Okay. Got it.
There we
It's
go. There we go. We are got it. We are
oh,
live. Everything is good.
yes, we are live. Hello, Syl. Hello, Brain. Hello, everyone there. We are
Mm.
here. Another day, another excitement. Today, for me, the day was full of adventure. I was not considering it as an adventure, but when I came to finally, Syl says, "Oh, what an adventure!"
Yeah.
And I said I had to do the perspective shifting for that. I
Yeah.
am in a bit of low
Yes.
energy, not only because of that, but also for some other reason. So kind of like my mind is focused on something or maybe any, which is good. Sometimes we need to save our energy. We need to get on a bit of snooze mode, which might be today for me. But
Oh,
the
oh,
perspective shifting is good. I was stressed. I was almost about to lost my hard drive in my laptop, and then some other problems were coming. And then I said, okay, yes, if it requires to change the hard drive, just change it. But when they did, it didn't work, even the new one. So that
oh.
and then we tried the old one again, and it started working. And still always say that sometimes we need to go and do things which might not come as a logical way of doing things. Like, yes, we had a problem in hard drive, we changed it, but no. And then there was no point to try the old one again, but we tried and it started working fine. Yes, of course we need to format, but for me, the takeaway was for the whole situation. I was truly very stressed about this. But when I came on Zoom, it was, oh, what an adventurous day for you. And I said, okay, not very fun kind of adventure, but it's still an adventure. Since
Yes.
then, my mind was just not being so focused on things. But suddenly, when we come on Zoom live for live, and I said, okay, yes, no matter what was happening, what was the takeaway, Veena? And my takeaway is that when you are trying everything, and according to you, of course, there is always more. We assume that we have tried everything. Everything is according to us, according to our awareness, ability, and context at that particular time. But when we have done everything that according to us, we need to follow the attunement and do things
Exactly.
which might
Exactly.
not seem logical, which might not be obvious, like
Yes.
something other than what is there for us. And
Yes.
this is what happened for me. I
That's
truly
a
love it.
powerful
Thank you.
point. When we've done everything that we know to do, then we've got to follow attunement. And then it may not be obvious.
Yes,
Keep going.
yes.
Powerful.
Also another sharing today is the power of association and
Oh,
association management. Because for me,
yes.
these lives are so important. And for me, these are important because still in the beginning, even before uh, started doing that, still says that these lives are just for my sake, and I'm going to do this for my own sake, and where I will not only show but also exercise and practice my own moreness
Yeah.
to be comfortable with. Sometimes we are not comfortable with our own models, and then we get awkward, and then we start creating friction and resistance in our life. And we
Yeah.
can observe that, experience that in the
Yeah.
relationship, in the interactions with other things. And of course, in general, with your machines, with your communication in any way. This is the friction which cause problem. So says, okay, this is my intent. So for me, that was very important to see and observe, because for me, it's an opportunity to see where someone can actually do this and practice and exercise. So that's why I'm always excited for these lives. Every single day, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
And today, when I was coming, just before 30 seconds of this live start, you can ask Sil how my mood and energy was. I was like, yeah, okay, yes, I'm doing blah, 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 blah. But this is the association I have, that these lives are for excitement. it brings more energy. The moment the live start, my mood and everything will start changing. It is in process, but this is the power of association. If we associate positive and yes, beneficial association with things and perspectives and situation and people, they can become a profound leverage for our energy.
Yeah.
This is what these lives are doing for me. Thank you. So
Yes.
thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
And now
Oh,
we can start because
thank
this
you,
is what
Bina.
happened
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. I have a new person to welcome. We have Amron who's joined us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Amron.
Okay.
So hello and welcome, Amron. Yes. Most wonderful. Most wonderful. Just thrilled
Yes.
to have you here, Amron. Thrilled to have you here. And thrilled to know you also. Very wonderful. Very wonderful. Brilliant. 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 I love it. I love it. I love it. Very cool. Very, very cool. Trying to find where we were yesterday. Someone from the Freedom from Anxiety and Worry chat,
Mhm.
Nina Binia, uh, said, said that she would like to come. I tagged her, and she said she's going to put on a calendar, hopefully to remember. So we are hoping that she comes. We're hoping that she comes. She was a bit down, and she needed a bit of uplifting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why she wanted to come. And I said, this is a great book. She asked, how does she remember? She was talking about being strong. And somebody said to her, oh, you're so strong. And she says, what do you mean? I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time. Things are not good. This is like everything is not fun. And then I said, being strong doesn't mean that we don't feel the stress. We don't see the stress. We don't know the stress, and we don't struggle. Being strong is persisting despite feeling that way.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And the fact that
Exactly.
she's still here, that she is commenting, that she's looking for a solution, that's strength.
Exactly.
If you're not looking for a solution, if you've essentially given up, well, then you're in a different deal. Yes.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. So this is
Yes.
important. This is important to
Ex-
to to be in the game. And then of course, like we did now, right? We were talking
yes.
about this earlier, Bina. We engaged in listing things and shipping things and learning new stuff and undoing problems. All right, our stuff gets flagged as having an issue. We discovered what it was, and we're fixing it, which is now just like extra work and it's just mundane thing. But here's the key: we're doing stuff that could be seen as work or mundane, but
Mhm.
because of Way of Impeccability, because of the application of moreness, this whole project that we're engaged in is fun for us. Doesn't matter what we're doing, it's fun because we've insisted on making it fun. And our attitudes are one that if something needs to be done, if it's coming via the universe, if it's coming via attunement, how is it not brilliant, awesome, magical, needed, necessary? And therefore, how do I not want to do it? And how do I not enjoy doing it? Right, Bina?
Yes.
It's a different way
Yes.
of living. It's a different way of living. And it is very much Nobelia-Living. Since we're on Nobelia, this is the chapter now. All right. It's a little bit about the physical planet too, but it's also about Nobelia-Living. And Nobelia-Living is having this mindset. Like Bina says, when you've done everything that you know to do, then you look to attunement, right? If you're still not getting the results, you look to attunement. Now, you would have looked to attunement for the thing to do in the first place, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So we've got to be sure about the order of things. We're doing whatever we can in order to deal with wherever we are at in life, which has come about through either attunement or force of circumstance. It's much the same thing, but it's just coming at it in different angles, right? So force of circumstance, you kind of get pressed into something. A situation comes and, well, it's like kind of duh, yes? And like you, force of circumstance, you get fired from your job unfairly and unreasonably, and you're like, well, now you say, now what? And you start looking, and then you don't find anything. But now you start paying attention to attunement and anomalies, and some weird thing comes up that, oh, this is a job I never considered doing, but yeah, it keeps coming up. Okay, let me try it. And you call, oh yeah, fine, we'd love to have you come over, start today. All right, you see. How do you say no? Attunement. I
Yes.
mean, it's hard to make these examples because they're very magical when they happen. So it's very hard to recreate something, because it always sounds kind of lame when you're recreating it. But it happens like that sometimes, and there's all sorts of odd things that happen that shouldn't happen and that couldn't happen, that like impossible. And you say, wow, okay, now you realize I'm here in this because of attunement. Once you're in there, now you are doing the things um, that's demanded in the situation, right? However, you also are going to now do those things according to the best of your sensibility, which is what Bina was saying. And you exercise that, and you stretch yourself, and you grow, and you figure out, and you expand, and you extrapolate, you anticipate. You do all the skills that allow us to maximize the growth of awareness, because this is always our center column. The work is secondary to the growth of awareness. The work, or the having children, or learning, going to school, whatever it is you might do in play, always the main goal is growth of awareness, right? Because that makes your life easier and more joyful and more happier. So this is the point and purpose of it all. I mean, the growth of awareness is so that we can be more appropriate, and the ability to be appropriate in the greatest number of circumstances is wonderful. And when you get to a point where you are in this habit of being appropriate, now you can be appropriate in terms of, like Bina and I, engaging in this new project that we're doing. We're learning stuff. It's different. It's new. And somebody could see it as work. But because we are maximizing for appropriateness and awareness, we are looking at the abstract skills that we're acquiring. We are looking at how we're applying the methodologies, attitudes, mindsets, techniques, etc., skills of thinking, skills of discernment, skills of understanding, etc., etc. And those give us great joy. So we are not only optimizing for awareness, but we're also optimizing for joy. And now we are enabling, we are already doing this because we've been practicing this before. In this circumstance, we're getting to a situation where what would just be work to others, and all right, I got to do it, and they go through it, and it's like work. It's not fun, but you get through it. No, for us, it's fun. We look forward to it. We're eager, we're keen. We're eager and keen to do what for others would be a grind and work. Right, Bina?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this incredible thing. It's an incredible thing. I think
It
back
is.
to previously in my life. I'm like, man, I didn't even want to write stuff. I wanted to be a writer, and I thought I wanted to be a writer when I was in the army as a young man, because we had a lot of free time. I'm sitting around doing nothing there. It's typical in army, you hurry up and wait. And it was just a peculiar circumstance. So I had a lot of free time on my hands and with nothing to do. We're literally out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's no radio, no TV, nothing, right? We're just there. I got pen and paper at least. All right, so I started writing. Yeah, but then the more I started writing was work. All right, never mind. See, because I didn't have the attitude. Now, I was just going over something yesterday that popped up anomalously. A long poem that I wrote. It's a follow-on continuation. It's the me of now and when. And this came to my attention because eBay all of a sudden decides, oh, it's been flagged for copyright. They did this before, and I said, no, it's public domain. Anyway, it came again. So just like, really, you didn't deal with this? It's so anomalous. Just out of the blue it comes. Like it's been around for I don't know, months, maybe even a year now. At any rate, yeah, definitely months. So I saw this and I was watching it again. And then I thought, you know what? Tomorrow, since Friday's also for me always been open Friday, and my Zoom was always open, and it's like open Fridays. So anybody can come and, anything we just discuss and get into, whatever. So I think tomorrow, Bina, we're going to go and do a capital R reading of the me of now and when. Yeah. And I want to focus on not the capital R reading of the poem. Yes, we're going to do that, but it's not the focus, the key focus. We're going to use it as a means to another end. And that end is to practice our capital R reading skills. Yes.
Okay.
And to share what this is and why it's a big deal to have capital R reading, because you're going to see without capital R reading, when we first read that poem, you may like, what's this about? I don't get it. And like, man, it's confusing. But once you start applying capital reading, it's like, okay. Oh, I see. Oh, and there's a lot of joy and moreness involved, right? But it takes that skill in the first place to be able to do that. Now, I want to abstract it even further and say this capital R reading doesn't, of course, just only apply to poetry or to prose, to any book you read, but to everything in life. This is capital H here in capital R reading, same thing, same underlying skill, the skill of extracting moreness. And we have to insist on that, right? It's a core element of Way of Impeccability, insisting on extracting the more. But we're going to practice this with capital R reading. And when we see this in the poem format there, we're going to see that what at first was just confusing and a jumble maybe, or like, whatever, it doesn't make sense to me. Now we get joy out of it, and we appreciate, and this is a magical thing, when we can enhance our ability to appreciate. Right?
Yes.
We assume appreciation is just a default. Things are there and we appreciate or we don't, right? I mean, it's just sort of inherent in the thing. If the thing is appreciable, then we appreciate it. That's not so. That's not so. Yeah. We like I said, you read a book, you read a poem, and if you don't have capital R reading, it's like, well, whatever, didn't grab me. But with capital R reading, you suddenly, oh my, oh wow, oh really, oh duh, oh wow, I didn't, oh I get it now, oh I see now, oh wow, creative, that was kind of clever. All right, whatever. Right? There's so much more to appreciate than we believe there is to appreciate. Yeah. Bina, do you remember where we were yesterday?
Yes, it was. There were tasks and exercises. We were just reaching there, and
Oh, I thought we went past that.
Let me remember that, because I said this is a very good point to leave it, and then we will come back to it.
Yeah. No,
Okay. Yes. Questions. Yes.
we'd passed the tasks and exercises already. We read a few pages. All right. It's all hidden. That was there. The generosity, the investments. I think we stopped halfway in that page. No, we did self-sufficient, I think, right? Yeah.
Screen share.
Yes, I shall tell you. Who does that, Norma? Who what is the that you mean? Norma, what that are you referring to? Sorry, I saw your question just a little too late. So you mean who enjoys work? Oh, here comes Christopher. Here comes Christopher. One moment, Christopher. Let me help you. Let me help you. I was too slow. One moment. Yeah, sorry. I was weighing stuff over here and I didn't have this, and it's not open yet. So, well, it's a rush for me. I'm on Zoom, on live too, so on Facebook. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Mute me, Bina. Mute me. No. I'm talking to Bina on Zoom. I say, mute me. I didn't get a chance to mute because I rushed out here to take care of this, I thought you had it in your arms there. All right, Christopher. No worries. Thank you, man. Thank you. See you again. Fun and excitement. You know, the big box that I was weighing was standing there where Christopher puts the packages for me. So I had to go and move it. So, all right. Fun and excitement. You see, even things that could be stressful, we can make them fun. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. That once we learn to attitude manage and perspective manage, right? The ability to shift our perspectives, which results in the ability to see things differently, to perceive things differently. We can change our moods, we can change our attitudes, we can change how we connect things. Just the demo you did just now. Well, that keeps me fit. Yes. Norma, you said, who does that? Well, uh, well, those who apply Way of Impeccability do it. That's who. I mean, so the new nobility would do it also. They do a lot more besides. This is one of the skills that they have, a skill that Bina and I have now acquired. Hopefully we'll acquire lots more. We've got a long way to go, right, Bina? But
Yes.
it's a step. It's a step, you know. I'm very happy with the skill because, like I was saying to Bina, you know, we're doing things that others would just perceive as work or grind. But we're having a blast. I mean, it's joyful to us. We're eager to do it. You know, we want to do these things. We look forward to doing it. This is a profound thing. We're engaged in a magical activity. Once you start to realize that life is all magical, then it becomes a profound thing. You know, and in the middle of the night, I think I said to you, I said, we wizards, right, Bina? I think your message to say we
Yes.
are wizards. Like, what are you talking about? So because part of this activity that Bina and I are engaged in is also about attention management and leveraging that attention appropriately. And attention management, when you really utilize attention appropriately, you're also starting to affect your reality with your attention. Right. So this is why anxiety and worry are so detrimental, because the more you worry about things, the more you make them happen. It's really, you know, quite dreadful. Yeah. So we got to be very careful, or at least you increase the chances of them happening. But now we're using this in the reverse. You can't
Uh,
overdo it because you don't have the energy. If you're overly positive with your energy and you want to imagine things that are like that take a lot of energy, it's like having money, right? Attention and energy is exactly like having money. So I might say, wow, you know, I want to buy the Ferrari, but I don't have money to buy the Ferrari. Yes. Now, when I have money, I can see how much money it is, and I know exactly. But with energy, I don't have an energy account that I can see. Oh, you've got so many kilojoules of energy at your disposal. So nope, you know, Ferrari materializing, you don't have enough for that. See, you don't know. So that's what happens to many people. Not so. That's what happens to many people. They push out an intent, but they don't have the energy to materialize the intent. Now, either they get the diluted version of it, or only a little tiny fraction, or it doesn't happen at all. But this is what we're doing now. We're doing now. We are managing our attention and our energy, right? Because we are deliberately phasing our scaling. Right, Bina? We scale up and then we entrench. And we say, let's get comfortable with this. And then we go a little further. So this is a very powerful mechanism, because if you try and grow too fast, this is now, if you can use a business analogy, business is also about energy. If you scale too fast, you can actually ruin your business, even though you're growing so fast, because you run out of cash and you have a cash flow problem. Now you've actually got the customers, you've got everything going, but you went so fast that you can't actually supply them, and then your business collapses, right? All just for lack of energy, which is money is energy, same thing, right? It's the same equivalence. I mean, money is just a physical representation of energy. Look, for something scarce, something's precious, something is difficult to make. It's expensive. Why? Because it takes more energy to find the thing that's scarce, or to find the things that's difficult to make or complicated to make, right? It takes more energy. It's very simple. So money is just a representation of energy. Things that are common and cheap, they're easy to make. They're abundant. Yeah. Very interesting how that works. Money is energy. Oh, and wealth is efficiency. Well, not really, but yeah. Anyway,
Also, just want to add something here.
please, please,
That
please.
when work is not fun for anyone, including myself. When
What
work
is
is
it?
not
Oh, work.
when work is not fun for
No,
anyone, including myself, we need to reconsider our choices. This is
no,
me who made this choice, deliberately made this choice
no.
to get involved in something, to do something, to achieve something. These are all my choices. Once we acknowledge that these are my choices and I deliberately did that, and before that, I tried to think it through to the end,
Hmm.
then I must be aware of what's involved in it. Then, if that is still whatever it involves, still the resolution or the ultimate point or the end result is exciting for me, I will not get to stress about what's needed to be done to achieve, to get there. Sometimes we get so excited by the idea that this is something very profound, this is something what I really want in my life. It can be applied to relationship also for me. I'm just sharing my thoughts about these things because this is what I understand what Syl was sharing. So this is my takeaway on that. It can be applied on takeaways. Sorry, relationships. Is we assume that, oh, this is the thing, this is what I want in life. But what's involved in that? We need to be really thorough about that. Not
Yes,
everything is all beautiful and glittery and all the time. You will have confetti showers
yes,
and
yes.
plain blend times also. If you can enjoy the blend, the
Bland.
tasteless, yes. Oh, and some people's vocabulary boring time,
Yeah,
then it is really worth to go for it.
exactly.
Mostly we get excited by just the idea, not the reality.
There you go. There you go. It's to be excited by the reality, regardless of the idea. Precisely. Precisely. This is a very important distinction. Like you said, sometimes we get excited about the idea, when we get to the reality, it's like, not so much. No thanks. And it's a crash. We don't want to be
Yes,
crashing. We don't want to be crashing. Yeah, very
yes.
powerful, Bean. Very powerful. Very powerful.
It's
Very
just to take
powerful.
away, sir, what you were saying.
Say again.
I'm saying this is just to take away what you were saying.
Yes, yes, a wonderful takeaway. Wonderful takeaway, Bina. Very wonderful. This is the magic of takeaways and repeat backs. I mean, it was almost more of a repeat back than a takeaway, but it's a combination. But when we do those, they are so fantastic because they just bring moreness, even though you're saying the same thing, but in your own way. It's like I'm hearing it afresh. It's too fantastic. We can do it again, even. We can repeat the same things because they're valuable and magical. Can't get enough of it. Can't get enough of it. I'm making you some coffee, Bina. Norma, would you like some tea or coffee,
Yes.
maybe? I'm just making for Bina because I know she's been working hard and excited and playing. Actually, we've been playing. We haven't been working. We've been playing, right, Bina? We have. We've been playing. It's too wonderful. Too wonderful. Play, play, play. That's the culture on Nobelia. Everything they do is play, even when it's work. It's a very powerful thing to understand. This is what I was talking about earlier, and Bina's been talking about, right, Bina? That we're
Yes.
playing really, this new thing that we're doing, with the listings and all this stuff. For us, it's play. Yes, it's work, but it's play. Just because it's play doesn't mean you can't be serious and sober about it, right?
Also because it is giving me so much more than just doing something, like just typing something
Yeah,
on computer. It is to understand what's the intent behind that. It is to understand how
exactly.
to communicate with it. It is to understand that how to be really thorough, because my
Exactly.
idea of like this is something I
All
know
right.
because I'm seeing this thing, I have this thing physically in my hand, but the other
Yeah.
person doesn't have that. And you
Yeah.
on top of that you have some limitations. You cannot be like really go long and long and long
Yeah.
endlessly, about anything. No. So to
No,
precise is also involved into that. Discernment also involved into that. So every
no.
single task is demanding to practice and exercise whatever I have learned so far. It's an opportunity. It's
No.
an opportunity. Again, happiness is not to cracking the 5-inch smile from year to year. Happiness is not jumping around with excitement. Happiness
No.
is just feeling contented. Happiness is feeling satisfied with your choices and their outcomes and results also. I'm happy right now. It can be very soft, low energy on surface, but this is the happiness also. We have some muddled up ideas uh, of feelings also. Like happiness. Happiness is not cheerfulness. This is what I asked Syl. Like what is happiness for you? Because I was super irritated with the idea that we always have to be happy and cheerful, which I cannot be. And I don't want to be.
I want to
Yes.
do Bina's math. So Bina, not Bina, Norma.
Okay.
She asked how many on Nobelia. Now, the ratio of people in the agglomeration, just in the general population, who want to be a new noble, is 0.0002%. Yeah. So a very small percentage want to be this. In other words, it's
Yes, sir.
one in 5,000 more or less, plus minus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you
Right.
for the coffee, but I'm going to eat now and I will come back
Oh,
as soon as
okay,
I will.
okay,
Yes.
okay, okay, okay. All right, my pleasure. Norma, your coffee's almost ready. No, not quite. Um, so one in 5,000. Now, I haven't decided yet exactly how big the agglomeration is, but they've been going for a good couple of centuries. Uh, and starting off, most of the planets are starting off with a population of a couple of thousand. And let's just say they're there for 6 centuries. I don't know. I don't know what kind of population you'd have after 6 centuries, starting from this. So I have to figure it out. Um, but probably a couple of million, maybe less. I'm not sure. It's hard to say. I have to do the math. I haven't done the math. It's things like this. I try not to lock in, Norma. It's a great question, but I don't like to define it because once you do, then you can't change it after you've defined it. You see, so it's a bit of an open question. Some of the planets were a bit more populated, and then of course there are the alien planets, which will likely be more populated, because they've been around longer, and this is their home galaxy, as it were. But the planets that the humans settled, and there'd be 1,000 plus of them. um they started, I know, I'll Google it in a minute to say human population, a typical growth rate, starting at a population size of, let's say 3,000. How many after 6 centuries? And I haven't even determined the time, more or less, maybe less, maybe more, but it seems a good time. But still, a couple of million people on a planet is a lot, but it may be as little as a couple of 100,000, Norma. It's quite possible. Very possible. Now, not all the planets are in the agglomeration yet. Again, not something that I have fixed, but at this point, it's probably about 2/3, 3/4, maybe somewhere around there. Some haven't been contacted and connected yet with. I don't know. It's a big galaxy, and so they haven't discovered where some of those people ended up. We don't know. Some of those starships originally, but not a huge population. I mean, you could think of the population of Nobelia as basically being 1/3 of the population of Earth. 1/3 of the population of Earth. 1/3 of the population of Earth is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the population of Nobelia is 1/3 of the population of Nobelia. 1/3 of the pop the population of a large city spread out planet-wide, right? Does that make more sense, Norma? Hang on, I'm busy pouring your coffee here. This is taking a long time. It's slow. Well, I'll do mine at the same time. All right, let me see. 0.002, and let's say we say there are a billion seems a lot for a planet after 6 centuries. I mean, look, we only got to 1 billion on Earth after how many centuries? You know, 2,000 centuries, more or less. Well, a little short of 2,000. Yeah, if you go before BC, right? Maybe 3,000 centuries, 4,000. So I don't know, maybe the planets only have a couple of 100,000 on them. Yeah, that would probably make more sense. Oh, all right. So if we say 100,000 times 1,000, all right, let's just make it 1 million. 1 million times 1,000. So we've got 1,000 million. All right, so let's see, times 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And yeah, see, like 200,000. So that would work out, Bina. I mean, Bina Norma. I call Bina Norma all the time too, by the way. Yeah, so about 200,000, maybe more, somewhere between 200,000 and 1 million. I would say maybe 2 million. You know, in that range, more or less. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you know, again, I tried to leave this open because in case later on in the story, I need to define it. Then I define it, you know, then I might need to change the numbers, you see. And that's just my system of appropriateness. If I don't need to define something, then I don't, right? Because sometime later on, I might need to define it, and then I do. And then I can define as appropriate. It's a very powerful strategy. And it's a general strategy from Way of Impeccability. And don't make decisions until you absolutely have to. Now, that doesn't mean you're not preparing for making the decision. That you do ahead of time. But the actual decision, leave it for the very, very last second. Right? So I'm doing all my homework in terms of, let's assume that I'm going to make it, I'm going to move. Right? And I have to make a decision on where to move. I do my research, and this can take months for argument's sake, right? But at some point I've got to say, all right, now I'm committed and it's gone. That time people tend to do it too early and they jump the gun and they don't need to make the decision, but they make it anyway. And then things happen between the time that they make the decision and the time when they needed to make it. Yeah? And that changes things. And they say, oh man, why did I say already? Now I have to start all over again. Right? So it's very not to do that until you absolutely have to make the decision. You can't put it off any longer. And I don't mean you're putting it off from a like a indulgence point of view. I just mean that's the crunch time, right? Like you got a deadline, right? There you go. But wait until the end because new things may come about. And this ensures that when you do make your decision, you've taken all the factors into consideration, right? All the information. Because once you make that decision, you also limit what new things come your way. The longer you stay open, the longer you stay open to new information. When you make the decision, you close yourself to new information. Make sense? Very powerful, very powerful. Yeah, I like this. I love your questions always, Norma. Your questions really, they open me up. Open me up. There's more. Let's screen share. Let's screen share. Let's screen share. Oh, yes, your coffee, Norma. Sorry, I gave it to you, but I didn't say anything. So thank you. My pleasure, Norma. My pleasure. I'm looking forward to reading the poem tomorrow. And having the focus being on not understanding what the poem says. That's going to come as a side benefit. but on sharing about capital R reading. It's a very powerful mechanism. When you say, yeah, perhaps I should have said in your story. Well, Nobelia is only in my story. I suppose somebody who could have, like fan fiction. People write books about Star Wars or Star Trek, and they're not officially affiliated with that, right? And that's called fan fiction. So I suppose somebody else could write a story about Nobelia, but it wouldn't be canon, as it's called, right? Unless they approve it by me. Then I say, yes, okay, this is approved. This is official now. Then it becomes canon. Cheers, Norma. Cheers. And just in case, would you like a rusk, Norma? Not a risk, a rusk. Well, if you do, there you go. Help yourself. Help yourself. Very nice buttermilk rusks, all the way from South Africa. That's what Oma means grandma in Afrikaans. Well, I think it's in German, probably the same in Dutch too. We'll continue reading in one moment. Very exciting. We're going to take care of these things, coffee, rusks. Norma, I'm assuming you're familiar with rusks. I think you mentioned them once before, right? And they're not a big thing in America. A lot of people don't know what I'm talking about when I say rusks. They have no idea. I have somebody who was doing Way-of-Impeccability bought some rusks, and I said, "What? The rusks? I mean, at least the way they for dunking, right? I mean, this is the sort of how most people enjoy rusks, but she just ate them dry and loved them." But Star Wars was true. Yes, Norma. Yes. Yes, but that's the point, though. See, you got to stay true to Star Wars. You can't just be writing stuff and saying it's not true. Yeah. Yeah. Star Wars has its own language. Brilliant. But I mean, you eat rusks. I thought you said on a regular basis. I think sometime you mentioned you had rusks with your tea and you were dunking them in your tea. Yeah. It's what we give to babies in the UK. Yes, it's very good for teething. Then you'll give a dry rusk. Yes. But most people, they dunk it in their coffee or tea, but mostly coffee. Yeah. I mean, I do. It's okay in tea for me to dunk them, but much better in coffee. Coffee is brilliant. Yeah. A rusk is essentially just a slightly sweetened bread that has been very slow dried. So it's crispy. It's a hard thing. Now, for those watching, I have to show what the rusk is. For those who don't know, I have to take it out and let me stop screen sharing so it's big on the screen. Right, Norma, you have this? You didn't say or not. I'm assuming I remember. Right now, sometimes you get them more roughly shaped. This has been sliced, then you get them more roughly shaped. But it's dry. It's hard. Right? I don't know if you can't hear there, but it's a hard thing. Yeah, or relatively hard. It's crispy and crunchy in a way, but not crispy like chips. I don't know. It's hard to describe the texture of it. It's very different. It's not quite like toast either. Not like that, but it's just very cool. Yeah. Sorry, Norma. This happens. You're so magical that you're like all wonderful people to me. See, that's how it works. Well, no, it's hard. It's not a roll. It's not soft, right? I mean, you bite it, the crumbs are gonna come. It's gonna be a crunch, right? It's like no, it's a dry hardness. Yeah, like a biscuit. Well, English biscuits, not American biscuit. That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I don't know. It gets so confusing now. Like a gingerbread cookie, right? Those are kind of hard. It has similar type texture to that. Gingerbread biscuit cookie. Yeah. No, these are hard. Two babies. Yes. Oh, it amazes me that people have children, but good luck to you. It's brilliant. Yeah, they can vary in color depending on how they baked. They may be a little bit extra crispy and then they're darker brown. Yeah. All right, brilliant. I mean, also the top. Yeah, well, it depends how they make them. Yeah. He's a very typical South African. I mean, it's a very quintessential brand. It's been around since I was a kid, longer than that, I would imagine. So a long time, a long time. All right. And we were here, I believe, right? At this point where the new nobility bought the planet Nobelia. Well, they called it Nobelia then. I mean, it wasn't called Nobelia, but they bought it. There was nobody there. They discovered it. But just because they discovered it doesn't mean that they said, oh, we own it. No. To them, all the planets belong to everyone in the galaxy. Any undiscovered planet is property of the galaxy. All right, people settle them and nobody complained, and you communally own them, but that's the point, right? Once you're there and you sort of apply your ethics, why should they own it just because they first? It's like, who owns the moon? If I end up sending my rocket ship to the moon, as a billionaire, and I say, well, you know what, I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to claim it. I'm going to own the moon. And from now on, if you want to come to the moon, you got to pay me taxes and stuff. I'm king of the moon. That's how most countries and stuff came to be, right? Somebody was there first, and then they said, but why? How does this work, right? And look at Antarctica. Antarctica belongs to everybody in the world. You know? They did this with Antarctica, and they said it's communal. So, very, very powerful. Anyway, so they bought the planet, and later they also Nobelita, the second planet, right? And there may be more. We don't know yet. Crossing the garden of surprises, Biella continued. The entire planet is self-sufficient in every way. Food, energy, production, mining, everything. A prime goal from the beginning. So most of the technology is put in first under the surface. And now we come to a very powerful point. Now you say, well, aren't most planets? You would assume that, Earth is self-sufficient. We don't get anything from outside of Earth. Yes, this may be something, but if you consider when you have a situation like the agglomeration, where you have access to things which you could get from your own planet, but they are hard on your planet, but they're abundant elsewhere. Well, now you get that from elsewhere, and you might not be so self-sufficient as you would otherwise be, because it's just easier to not be self-sufficient. Now, of course, all the planets in the agglomeration can be or were at one point self-sufficient. At that point, when they had just a few people before they started joining again and connecting again. In other words, before the great gravity engines were rebuilt and remade, right? And that took a little while, obviously, because you need lots of things to happen for that. You need some basis. So for the first, century or two or three, maybe, however long it took for them, that development of each starship that crashed, those seeders, there's a couple of thousand people, for the first couple of centuries, they would have to be self-sufficient. Now, they're not starting from zero. They're not starting from caveman circumstances, because they, of course, have computers, and on the starship, even though the starship's crashed, you still have that technology, and you have that library, that database, right? So you can know, and you have some tools to start with. So you have a head start, right? And the old ships were designed that way in case they crashed, contingency planning, that you would have all of the tools. You can salvage parts of the ship, and the forges and stuff like this are all built into the supplies, and you can make tools and everything. So you're going to start off in the most optimal way to start and settle a planet, right? You have every advantage you can imagine that you can possibly take into a starship. So they're going to get to a level of civilization and sufficiency much quicker than you would without all this pre-planning and the tools and the learning, the knowledge, right? It's all planned for. So it just takes a bit of time to, of course, it takes time to cultivate crops and put in irrigation systems and build robots and all of the stuff, right? And that's too. There are robots that will help them that are part of the ship, right? Whereas the ship, even though the engines don't work and the ship can't fly in space, It doesn't mean that the ship is completely just obliterated into little pieces. No, it's geared to crash and essentially stay intact, right? And so it becomes their home base to start with. But as they start to use things, they start to disassemble the ship and rearrange it. So now, let's say you take the bow of the ship, and this has been designed to be able to be a factory. Yes, you unhook it, you set it up, you hook it to power, the external power source, like wind, weather, solar, and there you go. Now you got a factory. What is it producing? It's producing tools. It's producing little robots that make other little things, right? Mechanized robots that can produce smaller things, and so on and so forth, right? So once you have this process going, it starts to feed on itself, and you're going to advance much, much quicker than you would otherwise, right? This is a big topic that I'll go into in another time. Well, it's part of the series that comes in between this one and some other. It's a series on its own, which is like the pre-sequel, because we jumped, right? We had the Cedar story, and then we jumped ahead in time to Nobelia now. But there's a series that deals from when the starships crash, and we go down, and we on the planet with the Cedars, and wow, okay, this is a little unexpected, but it's not like we didn't plan for it. We did. We had contingency planning. It was part of our preparation. Then we get to hear about all of the preparations that they made and how they planned for it. And we may even jump back a bit in time to when they were still on Earth planning the contingency stuff. Now they get to use it. And then we'll go to different planets and we see how the culture develops through the series. It'll be a long series, because we're now going to take those early settlers, that community, and develop. There'll be personalities, and who's in charge and all of this stuff. And are you going to follow the noble ideal, or are you going to revert to the superiority paradigm? Is there somebody who's got a bit of megalomaniac in him, who wants to be the boss, and do you give in to them and say yes or no, or do you say, no, sorry, we are not going to have you be in power because you just want it for power, and this is not what the noble ideal is all about. And this being a BMN and having no morals, they may be a bit unscrupulous, and they cause sabotage, and all the things. So make for exciting story, right? But when we look at this, though, it will be fun to go through all of those steps and say, okay, yeah, we've got the machinery that, like I said, you reconfigure the starship, becomes a factory that produces things, different parts of it, and so on. And you're going to get a real head start on it. But then as the story develops, the problems will come from as the story writes itself. After a while, you put it there and say, okay, then what? How did they deal with this? How did they deal with that? Right? You just start asking questions, right? And then, like, how do they deal with irrigation? And so on and so forth, or just sewage, and where do they get power from? All of these questions, and then the social organization, and who looks after the children, stuff like that. Right. Yeah. One second, let me just say. All right. Yeah. So Jordan, you can just come and join us. I can't chat now, in other words. And Jordan has come before. He has come before. He asked a question that we didn't understand, and he didn't explain, and we were just left in a mystery. And I still want to know. Right. A prime gold from the beginning. So most of the technology will put in first on the surface. Now, we get back to this. What I wanted to say is, because Nobelia and the new nobility, by the time they bought Nobelia, they were the wealthiest entity, never mind corporation. They were the wealthiest entity in the agglomeration by far. So they were wealthier than most planets, right? Or groupings of planets. So they had plenty money, right? No, why will you have to go, Norma? I don't understand. Oh, but I will have to go, I imagine, soon. But I will have to go. Oh, I see. Okay. No problem, Norma. If you go, you go. It's all good. It's all good. What I'm saying is that with Nobelia, this is not a planet that they settled and then developed as they went along. They were already a big group and a big organization with many, many people in it at the time of purchasing Nobelia. Now, you asked how many on Nobelia is 200,000, but that doesn't mean that's how many new nobles there are, right? There's probably, 20 million, or I don't know, 2 million new nobles, whatever, a lot more, right? At 7 o'clock, I see. All right, in 5 minutes time, in other words, yes? Yeah. All right. No, no problem, Norma. No problem. We'll talk later. All I'm saying is that in this case here, they planned Nobelia as a longer term view to have more people on it later, even though there was a good number that were going to settle it initially, right? Initially, there'd probably be a couple of million or two that will be settling it, or even all the new nobles might have come in the beginning. I don't know. I haven't decided yet on the story, but they planned it in such a way um, that everything is there ahead of time, and thus before they settled the planet, they put in, for instance, planet-wide sewerage. Yes. Okay. Likely we're going to have cities here, there, and there, and it's more concentrated here. But also we've got the sewerage, maybe that you can do on demand. You can have local sewerage, maybe not sewerage, but transport for sure, and transport of not only people but also goods, because they have automated factories that produce all their stuff, almost everything, and those are all underground. And from there, when you order something, it gets made in the factory on demand for you, and it gets shipped via the underground tunnels and goes to your property. Now they have a system that the young man said, he wrote about as an idea, that he said, look, this would be a great idea to do. And yes, we will talk later. Always, Norma, we always talk later. Yeah, always. One of the ideas that they pulled from the young man, as the young man is sort of like an originator here, right? And that's why you'll see later he comes into the story, and he's a real figure, but also there's like kind of young man thinking, and so he becomes semi-mythological as well, where you might have a quote that's like a young man quote, and you'd say, well, this is something the young man would say, right? And that kind of, so it takes on a life of its own. Anyway, this idea that the young man had, he presented in this particular way. He said, let's go back 100 years or 200 years. At the time when he said it, 100 years was enough, but let's just go back, all right, 150 years now. And we say to the citizens of a country, saying, I've got a plan. And my plan is, it is going to entail connecting each and every house to each and every other house via wires and via pipes. Wow. Really? Really, young man? That's a preposterous idea. To do this nationwide, wouldn't that be ridiculously expensive? Yes, but look at the benefits. Well, what are you talking about? Well, I'm talking about connecting with electricity, for instance, telephone. Yes, we want every house to be able to call every other house with a phone. Yes, so they must all be connected in such a way that there's interconnection. Now, all right, for water, this is not so critical, because I don't need to send you water. I just need to take, so water is a little easier to do. Same with sewage, that's going the other way, right? But I don't need to send my sewage to you, right? But I need to be connected to the main sewage, and that goes in. Nonetheless, technically, I can go from my house via the water pipe into the main water pipe, and from there into your house, right? So technically we connected, right? Even though we're not using it in that way, but technically the houses are all connected. Same with electricity, right? Same thing, all connected. I say, yeah, but this will be like, I mean, the amount of work involved is enormous and monumental, right? I mean, we're talking about 150 years ago, even 100 years ago. I mean, this is just like ridiculous, right? To do this on a nationwide scale. And yet here we are. Now, you say, well, it grew organically and all this. Yes, That may be so, but look at the internet. When the internet came along and cable, right? Yes, some of the internet is through the phone wires, but what about cable? When cable came along, this was a new connection that connected everybody to everybody once again, right? And it happened. Same with internet now, right? You come, they lay a new cable. It's done, right? So this can happen, and it can happen fairly quickly as well. Now, let's add one more connectivity. Let's add shipping pipes. Just think of it. Just think of it if you have a system where you've got these massive pipes and you've got big, huge ones that can move containers, right? And inside the pipe, it's a vacuum, and the container is floating on magnets, and the magnets just get angled and levered, and this is how it moves. It's extremely energy efficient when you do this, right? Because it's floating, there's no friction, right? And then as the thing moves, the magnets are kind of angled, and then they attract, and then they repel. Anyway, it's a very simple system. Uses the minimum amount of energy for the maximum return, because you're essentially floating something like in space, right? There's no resistance. To move something in space, once you get it over the inertia, to keep it moving, there's no friction, right? Same on the vacuum. Once you get it going, there's no movement. Now, you'll have a bit of gravity when you go up and down because the pipe won't always be level, but for the most part, it's just like it's floating through space. Now, you have your major pipelines, like your major highways, like the trucks are moving the containers along. You've seen those trucks with the containers on them, the ships, right? But then they get to a depot and they open the container and they break it apart and they ship it to you, right? Now, a depot, of course, would be like UPS. They have a depot. The post office has depots. Amazon has depots all over the show. And now you ship things to the houses. And if you take things that ship typically, there's kind of a maximum size that you can receive in the mail, yeah? That you can easily receive in the mail. Other than that, it comes by freight. Now, if you take that size and you make your tubes to connect all houses this size, and you start connecting, now it's a bigger pipe, so it's going to take a little bit more work to do. But, you know, if you put them underneath your roads, for instance, yes, it's work involved. You have to pick up the road, put the pipe, but it's, again, it's for the future. Once you do this and you have these major pipelines, and if you actually make them big enough to take people as well, right? That you sit in a little, like a capsule, right? I mean, even though you can't stand, but if you can sit, maybe recline, right? The length is not an issue. It's just the width that's kind of an issue, right? Now you can move people as well. This is an interpersonal transport system as well. And not only packages, but interpersonal transport. Wow. Wow. Your whole world has changed. Cheap, efficient shipping and personal transport. Wherever you want to go, you dial it in, you get in your little capsule, zoom, it zips you off, and you travel at ridiculously fast speeds. And, you know, the next thing you know, it's like, let's say you're going cross country. You may be taken to a depot and then you put into a container with more people. And now the container zips across country like an airplane. Same thing, except faster, safer, more efficient, cheaper, etc. This is a great idea. Now, with Nobelia, they plan this ahead of time, right? Now, they don't have roads on Nobelia because they don't need them because they got the underground system. Yeah, this transport system for both goods and people. Yes, if there's something that's really huge, they'll move it by air. They'll use like zeppelins, that type of thing. Then they use them on Earth now to move like really huge, big things. Should you have that? But still, you know, to have modular designs, it's not that big a deal. It's very seldom that you really need such big, major, huge things. And since actual ships and shipping is not an issue, even though there are continents, you just have the automated factories on another continent. You know, it's not a problem. That type of duplication is not an issue. And, you know, I really want to get, take this thing, you've got enough money to do it. You just put a great big pipeline under the ocean. You don't need ships anymore, right? Very simple. And they already lay cables across the ocean. Yes. All your data that goes in the internet around the world, they're all in cables. Somebody laid these massive cables. There's lots of them lying across the ocean. It's quite amazing. So when we think on the scale, it seems preposterous until you realize it's been done. That's why this plan is presented from this angle of saying, well, let's connect all the houses. Wow, seems impossible. Yeah, but we've already done it. We've done it with sewage, with water, with electricity, with phone, with internet, with cable. I mean, what's that? That's half a dozen different ways the houses are already connected. Yes, you're just adding one more. And furthermore, they also are into renewable energy in a very big way. So any community that you have, any building, any house, for instance, your windows are all solar panels. They have see-through glass, right? It's see-through solar panels. They actually exist already. They're not as efficient as regular ones, not by far. But think of it this way. If every single window, every single surface is painted with a paint which is a solar generates solar electricity, right? You get flexible solar panels now. You're just taking that to the next level and you're making it very thin. There you go. Might not be as efficient and effective, but who cares when you've got so much of it, right? So every constructed surface is solar. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's painted, because that's another thing that's coming in chapter 9, I think. This about the art in Nobelia, and it's another thing, but doesn't matter, right? You can use this and make any design you like. Doesn't matter, right? It's both for the windows where you want those to be clear. They're clear, but they're also solar panel, and that actually exists, by the way. It's an already existing technology. And I'm not talking about, new things. They're already taking old technology. Anyway, and of course, some of it, they just take what's already there. And like the thin, flexible solar panels, you can bend them. They're flexible. I own one. Actually, I got it just recently. Right? And you could take them camping and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But you just make that thinner. Now, of course, like I said, you lose efficiency, but doesn't matter. When you got so much of it, doesn't matter. And then, of course, all the other renewable energy inventions that the young man has invented, and they use all this, like piping. Every single pipe that moves, whether it's moving water or oil or anything, you can make into a generator. It generates electricity. I'm not going to get into the details of it. It's a little technical. But you're using induction mechanisms like your generator in your car. It's moving a coil around a magnet, or moving a magnet inside a coil, right? A coil, a coil is like, this wound material of any kind that can carry a current. In this case, typically it's copper wire, but it can be other things, right? And water can carry electricity too. And if you were to, anyway, I won't go into the details of how you can use piping to generate electricity, but on Nobelia, when you open your tap, you generate electricity because there's movement, there's flow, and when you have that flow, it's creating electricity. Every single pipe generates electricity. It's a very profound thing. And then they have it inside rivers, and of course the wind. And anyway, there's so many ideas here. They are fantastically fun. And Biella at some point gets to explain all of this to Ursula. Now, she tries a good couple of times and gets distracted, and things happen and this and that, and she never quite gets the explanation. So it's a bit of a tease in this book. But in book 2, Ursula finally says, come, enough now. You've been teasing me with this, not intentionally, I understand, but I really need to know now. And then Biella goes into detail, like I am now, but really goes into detail and explains to Ursula how it works. And since Ursula's already into renewable energy on her planet, it's new there. She just loves this, right? And she's just thrilled at the application of it. And there's some really fabulous ideas and how they're applied. And the key point to this is, when you don't need to optimize for efficiency, you get a great leeway with how you do things. Yes. And some of these projects that generate electricity, they're not the most efficient because that's a business focus. On Nobelia, the focus is, yes, you generate electricity, but you want to do so artistically. So they have, for instance, mechanical sailing ships. When you go out into a bay and a harbor, you see these ships sailing all around the ocean there. So, wow, that's very cool. At least from the shore, it looks like boat sailing. But actually, they're on a track underground, and they're running on this track with the sails, right? So it looks like a ship, and there's even an actual physical boat there. But they're actually on a track, and because they're sailing and because it's so fixed and rigid, they can utilize sail power very effectively. And on that track, they are driving gears and ratios. They're producing electricity. But to you on the shore, it looks like, wow, that's so cool. All this is a big regatta going on here. It's like the bay's full of ships. Like, wow, cool. But actually, they generate electricity. But it's also art. Yes. And this is just part of how the new nobility do things. Yes. They do it to have both efficiency in joy and efficiency in actual product. Yeah. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Jordan, have you joined? Are you here? If you are, say hi, mate. Say hi. Say hi. So I know you're here. As Norma had to leave, oh, then I know you're here. It just helps me. It's just nice. I just like to know when people are here. Then I feel you're included. You know, right now I'm speaking generally. Well, I'm kind of still talking to Norma because even though she said she's left, she didn't say bye. So in my mind, she's still yes. I'm still talking to Norma. Um, I want to get back to this with the new nobility, how they optimize. It's a different system. When we always have to optimize for efficiency or for profit, we lose much. We lose so much. For instance, the glass solar panels, they're not nearly as efficient as the other ones, and you don't see them for sale anywhere as a result. Because who's going to make it? Nobody's making money out of it. It's something that's only maybe in electricity or research or whatever. And so things fall by the wayside, even though they are fantastically brilliant. Yes. I mean, if you bought that as glass that gives you electricity rather than as a solar panel, now it's a different logic. Yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying, hopefully it will come at some point because this will be phenomenal. If every single pane of glass in the world produces electricity, there'll be a lot of electricity. It's like every roof. You know, to me, when you build a house today, how is it that you know, when you put roofing tiles or whatever you put as roofing, how come your roofing material itself is not solar panels? Yeah, why not? There's no reason for it. You're already paying for the roof. You may as well design roofing tiles, roofing panels, whatever, that are solar. And you buy a new house, it's, well, why do I want to put up old roofing tiles that don't do anything to me, right? But I can just put them up solar instead. It's just like a duh, right? Hello, Bina. I'm glad you're back, Bina.
Yes.
Glad you're back.
Yes.
I'm talking about the design of
Yes.
Nobelia, in that they designed ahead of time all that underground, the underground factories, the underground transport for both people and goods. It's all there, right? So maybe it's not going to every little locale because that can always easily be extended as needed. But in the principal points, like in the, let's say just in the American continent, right? You can go from East Coast to West Coast, and then you can go like the highways, right? If you just look at the map of America and you take the highways, the main highways. Now, some of them are a bit more population orientated, but nonetheless, you'll see there's the highways that go across, and then there's the highways that go up and down. And they actually got numbers. The odd numbers go up and down, and the even numbers go across, right? So like Highway 10 is down the south, and then, you know, goes up whatever, you know, 12, 14, whatever, 20, I don't know, 40. I think they go 10, 20, 40, something like that. Anyhow, you can see this up. Now, if you do this underground, you put the major highways, and then from that, you put into the local areas, the sub-major ones. And then if you need to take it further, well, then you just do. It's already there. The infrastructure's there to take it, take it to your local city, community, new town, whatever. It's not a problem. It's easy. It's already there. And it's very cool that they have this, right? Because now you can get resources to, let's assume that you all right, like here in Arizona, there's kind of a lot of free space or open space in Arizona. And you say, well, there's not a road nearby here, but we can tap into the highway. It's not that far away, even though you're in the middle of nowhere. It's maybe 100 kilometers that you're from the highway at best. I don't even think that much. Well, fine, to put in a sub highway there, It's not a problem, right? You don't have to put in the whole structure, but once you connect to that artery, yes, you have access to the factories. You have access to everything, right? It's like when you make a road, anybody can come to you now, right? You have access. That's very powerful. You're not reliant on air, and they do use air, Abina. There are no cars, but they do use air transport as needed, right? When when the tunnels are, let's say, maybe there's a desert area. There's one particular desert area that is enclosed by mountains. Yes, and that's where Biella and Illumina have. It's part of the consolidation story, but they end up there with a glider, yeah, and then they have to essentially walk out of there, right? Just there's no transport there, and so it's left there purposely to be a remote area. That if you want to access this, and there's treasures there, but you want those treasures, you have to go and make the effort to get there, right? So you can go in, but you have to walk out. So they do it deliberately so that it's not just easily accessible. Makes it more special, more private, and more potent, yeah, more magical. So a lot of thought going into the design of the planet ahead of time. And then when they built dwellings, they built the cities extra. I mean, they just built essentially empty cities, kind of like the Chinese have done, right? But with great variation and great art, but also leaving space for development. But when they came, there was more, at least in the number of new nobles that initially settled the planet. There was more space available. I think the very first settling, Vina, would have been way more than stayed, where people were working and they just said, well, we're going to come live on Nobelia, for like take an extended holiday for a couple of months and then go back to work in the ag or whatever we're doing, right? So that initial extra accommodation was used initially, right? And then, as I said, because everyone wants to be on Nobelia, it's your own planet, right? And you need to at least have spent time there, because you started now at the point of Nobelia. You've been a new noble for a long time. But if you don't have a connection to Nobelia, therefore, initially, everybody got to stay there, even if not at the same time. Maybe you took a couple of months to arrange for your take off what you're doing, and then you came out. But still, within the first couple of years, every new noble came and spent significant time on Nobelia, right? And then after that, of course, once it gets entrenched, now you're starting to bring in aspirants, and all aspirants start on Nobelia because it's a school of nobility, right? So they all have this deep, deep connection to Nobelia. Yes, I mean, Nobelia is their home, in their heart, like Sher made the post about home. Yes, capital H, home. Doesn't matter where they originated as a aspirant. Once you shift, part of being an aspirant is shifting your home. If you aren't able to do this, you're never going to ever really be in that culture, and you'll never be a new noble, right? You're never even going to be a full aspirant, because you're going to be holding on to your old home and connecting to that life and all of the stuff. And that's just not viable. It's just not tenable. Yeah. A lot of people asked, or I have somebody asked, or a couple of people have asked me, yeah, but what about talking to your family? If you're in that mindset where learning and growth is everything, it takes way more precedence over your family. They become secondary. If you have to leave your family, you leave your family. Doesn't mean you don't have to connect with them. Yes, you will, but you're also going to be aware that you can't connect too much, because then you're going to stay in your old self, right? So there has to be a gap, a period where, like the snake shedding its skin, right? Where you're not either or, and you have to let go fully of the one before you can get into the other. You can't do it half and half, right? So you have to let go for however long it is, usually a couple of years at least, and then you can go and connect to them. But then you're coming back, and now you're connecting as either a new noble or as a long established aspirant that is confident and secure in being your new self, so that when you go back, you don't revert to your old ways and your old relationships and your old habits and all of this. Yeah, very powerful. Yes, Bina? Make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I know for someone like Bina, if let's say Biella and the group arrive in their spaceship today, and with and they park out there and they're orbiting Earth, and they come down to Earth. Now maybe they don't have beaming technology like Star Trek, but who knows? And they say, yeah, we are, and okay, they go and chat to United Nations, but they say, look, we actually here on a mission, we're on a specific mission, and we're not really here to conquer you or invite you into anything. Maybe, but that's not why we're here. We're here basically as tourists, right? And we kind of looking for people. And it's, okay, well, who are you looking for? No, that's for us. We'll find them. Don't worry about it, right? Because you don't want to involve the government. So we just basically we're here and we just chill. And yes, there's a lot of media, but let the media know. We'll let you know. We'll say whatever, but we're just going to be chill, right? And just leave us alone, in other words, right? Otherwise, we'll go away and you'll never see us again, right? So if you overdo it to the media, then you're going to get nothing, right? They're very, very ruthless with the media. So they educate the media to have a little bit of discipline and self-restraint. Then they just go about life, and eventually they knock on Venus' door there. And Venus like, yes, you Venus said, oh yeah, are you friends with the young man? Yeah. Okay, well, would you like to come to Nobelia? And what does Venus say?
What else? Is anything other than yes you expect?
Oh, I don't expect a yes. I absolutely do not. I absolutely do not. Their question was, would you like to come to Nobelia? Venus says, yes, I would like to, but I don't think it's possible. Oh, if you could come, would you? That's a different question.
Yes.
I would like to, but can I? Yeah, well, I don't know. I'll have to think about this. Yes. All right. Let's assume now. Let's assume now that you get this offer, right? And the offer means that, well, you have to go to Nobelia, and it's far away. Now, Nobelia is far away in the galaxy from any other planets. And yes, there is communication, but even communication over very long distances takes time when it's in conventional means. The great gravity engines, because they manipulate time, when you really need to send messages urgently throughout the entire galaxy, like the agglomeration has a message for all the planets, they send out the great gravity engine ships and they deliver the messages in person, right? Via the ships, because the ships can jump in time. So it's much quicker than sending it through regular transmissions, which is the fastest and go speed of light. But from one end to the other galaxies, it will be maybe thousands of light years across a galaxy. I don't know. So
Yes.
you see what I mean? So that
Yes.
so when you go to a planet like Nobelia, you essentially and effectively cut off from communication with your family. It happens automatically, but you got to be prepared for this, right?
Yes.
Nina, Norma asks, oh, she's asking me the thing here. All right, so it doesn't help if I say it because Norma's not here. Uh, let me just respond to this. What do you think about this, Venus? So would you leave? Would you go for a few years? Let's ask that question.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, for me, I'm like, there's no way, knowing you, that you're gonna leave without me. Sorry, no way at all. I no matter what I have to do, you coming with you. That's it. That's it. You're not getting rid of me now. You know, I'll literally just walk and stick to them like glue, no matter where they go. I'm sticking to them. I leave everything behind. Whatever I have to, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just with you now. End of story. I'm your new glue. I'm your new shadow. And don't think you're going to jump in that Uber without me. No, I'm jumping in that door right into that Uber with you. Even if I have to be rude and obnoxious, you're going to have to really use extreme measures to get rid of me. And I know you won't, because you're not that kind of people. So I'm just going to bully my way into being with you. But of course, then they'll see your earnest desire. And I would assume that would be enough, right? All right. Yeah. So I hope Nina comes. Her last name is Binia, by the
Wow.
way. Yeah.
She's like
Binia.
Norma and Bina. So it is like
Or
Bina,
Bina
Binia.
and Bina and Nobelia combined.
Yes, Bina,
Binia.
Bina, Binia.
Yeah. 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 It's too amazing. Nina Binia. It's too amazing. Anyway, so she was needing connectivity and community, and I said, we do the lives. Come, please. This will be a very powerful thing, and just support, And when you have positivity and you're in a positive environment, it makes your stress a lot less.
Yes.
Also, Bina. Now, let's assume that they say, well, we're going to be on Earth for a while, says Biella and Ursula. Right, and whoever else is with them, maybe Fine Noble is there, who knows? And say, well, Bina, this means we're not going to be going to Nobelia right away, but we are going to set up a remote place here that we can be undisturbed, and this will be Nobelia away from home, right? Buy a farm or something in, I don't know, maybe some place like, I don't know, South Africa, Australia, or something like that, or whoever. Greenland, it doesn't matter, wherever, some place where it's a bit remote, right? Not that South Africa is that remote, but still, relatively it is. And say, but now, of course, if you're here on Earth, you can still connect to your family. But part of being an aspirant means that you do need to not connect with them, at least for a while, so that you can shift from being one to another. Would you be able to do that if you had the opportunity to connect to your family?
Yes.
Yeah. And you see the necessity for it, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. And anybody who wants this will understand this. That I'm giving up on my family. I need it in order to make a break from that way of living, because I'm engaging in an entirely new way of living. And you're going to prepare them later on, your first communication. It'll be a one way to think, kind of say, look, I've changed. I'm changing. I'm different. I'm not the same. And so you prepare them. So by the time they see you, first of all, you're going to be in new Nobelia regalia outfits. Like you're going to be visually like, oh, wow, what the heck is this now? Of course, you've been wearing it for a long time, and you'll be utterly unself-conscious about it. Be no issue. Right? Oh, wow, you really are different. And they will have to now uh, connect to you. One of the things that's highly recommended is for aspirants to take a new name. Yeah? When they arrive on Nobelia, they have already decided their name. Now, you got a couple of months where you can still change it. When you introduce yourself at first and you say, hello, I'm not Vina, I'm B Sidd. With an apostrophe, just call me B. Yeah. So what, I'm still unsure about it. You might not say, just for now, just call me B. And I might change it later. And you have a bit of time for that until people are sort of used to you, right? And then you say, okay, maybe in a couple of months' time, yes, I know you've been calling me this, but I've now really thought about it, and I prefer this, and I want to change my name. And then everybody's go with it, change it, because it's not so locked in yet, right? The reason for changing your name and you come as an aspirant is because you think of yourself, when you think of yourself as your old name, all the associations, habits, and connectivities, psychologies, everything that goes with that. It's a profoundly deep association. I mean, Syl is very different to Leon. Very different. Huh? So when you go, you change, and the name change is a very profound thing. So when you go back, though, you've already warned them in those one-way communications. Say, I'm coming back. Now going to be called, I don't know,
Yes.
Laana. All right, you may be called Laana. I was trying to make up some exotic name, right? And then they'll be prepared. And when you get there, initially they want to call you Bina. No, La'ana, no, La'ana, no, La'ana. Right? And then as soon as they shift to that, and when they see that you not only look different, but you behave differently, you walk differently, you talk differently, everything is different about you. They go, oh, you are different. And it's La'ana, not Bina. No? This is a very big deal. And it is kind of part of, it's almost like a test, an inadvertent test. That when you as an aspirant, at some point you do go home, and typically you go home in the company of a new noble, or two or three even. If you arrive at your door, your family door, in the company of two or three new nobles, right? You coming in as a little community. You now have support that maintains your new behavior. Right, you taking that bubble with you. If you're on your own, you're going into the greater bubble of your old life. Yes, and it's hard to keep your own bubble. But when you've got that support, now it's very easy. And of course, you know, your family has to relate to the new nobles in that way, and by extension to you as well, because they see you and them not much difference here. Yes, and there may even be another aspirant there too, or even two or three aspirants, and they see aspirant new noble is not really any difference here, right? So they have to treat the whole group, and you including that. And of course, when you sit with them, not with your family and so on. You may hug and then all that, but you staying connected, and it's that support, because it's a difficult thing for people to change, to relate to somebody new. But if you present the right circumstances, you're making it easy for them, right? And of course, all of them are calling you La'ana and not Bina, right? And it's like, oh, and you know, every time they say be, then somebody will correct them, not you, but you mean La'ana. Oh yes, I say yes. We know it's difficult, old habits, but and they will then put that, not you. They will help you into change the family, change the habits, right? And they don't let them get away with calling you Bina once. No, never, not even once, right? And so, of course, when you get into that new habit, it just takes a little bit of pressure, like we know for habits, a bit of overbending initially. But once it's there, and they accept the new name, then and because it's very hard not to in a circumstance like that, because you're looking different, you're walking different, you're talking different, because part of aspirant training are movement classes, right? So there are classes. I said there are no classes, but not in the usual way. They're much more informal. You know, you're not on a schedule, a curriculum, but at some point you have to attend these classes, and you won't be nominated for a new noble if you go around dragging yourself around, you know, skulking about, slouching, whatever, right? So part of deportment classes. Yes, when you have this, if you get sent to the you know, fancy pants girls' school in Switzerland, one of your classes is deportment. Right? You can look it up. You can go and look up what deportment classes are. It's a very particular thing that is still taught today. It's a very wonderful thing too. Right? Elocution. Both deportment and elocution, critical in those private schools for making you into a lady. Yeah. Now, they are sophisticated ways of being, so that you don't default to the usual. From there, you can adjust as you need, but having the ability is very profound. Elocution is very important. It's essential to communication, right? To be able to speak clearly and fluidly and thoroughly. And there you really get trained to not say so and Wow. Well, and deportment, you know, I mean, you were taught deportment automatically as part of your family culture, right?
Yes.
I mean, you know, like when a lady sits and how they keep their knees together, things like this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
In some cultures, that's not there. Most cultures. Remember, we had that thing where when ladies sit with a skirt, right, and their hand goes in, tucks the skirt, right, between the knees like that, right?
Yes.
It's innate to women. You put a man in a skirt and he sits down, he doesn't do that. Yeah. They don't think to do it, because they never had those. You had deportment classes, even though you didn't know you had them. It's just part of most women around the world, especially with the skirt. This is part of their upbringing as a girl. So there's innate deportment almost everywhere in the world. Now, there are some places where you don't have it, but in general, you have it. But there's
And
more to
yes,
deportment than that, right?
of
I mean,
course.
learning how to walk and glide and lots of stuff, right? And of course, this is not just deportment for women, but for everybody, regardless of gender, because like I said, all right, when you vaguely humanoid, deportment for the community is like, community on this one, sorry, I know you like to be included in everything, and we love inclusivity, but on this one, sorry, you're going to have to just sit out. Unless you can demonstrate to me that you can move in different ways. Yes, says the community. I can. And then they show you, they can kind of wobble. So I actually have innate good deportment. If I didn't, you'd see me wobbling and shaking all the time. Oh, okay. Now, exactly, Norma. The classes that aspirants would go to are absolutely dance class, right? And it's not to learn to dance in a particular style, but it is to be able to use your body. Not just dance, but rudimentary gymnastics, athletics, right?
Mm.
All part of the same thing, right? Body usage. It's all part of deportment, really. Yeah. Dancing, part of deportment. Yeah.
Yes.
Deportment is about moving with a particular intent. So the new nobility get very sophisticated on this. And they say, deportment is one particular intent, the deportment that you learn in the Swiss girls' school, right? Or the private school. They're not only in Switzerland, they're elsewhere, but we just know of them typically in Switzerland, right? In that
Yes.
super special private school where ambassadors' children or whatever go to, right? The wealthy kids. Now, but that's a very particular intent to the deportment. But deportment really means comporting yourself, moving in a particular way with a particular intent. So on Nobelia, for aspirants, deportment classes involve deporting yourself in a wide variety of manners. Yes, because when you're out in the ag, where you're likely going to end up, you want to be able to move in different ways depending on circumstances. Sometimes you want to blend and you want to be able to move basically unobtrusively, right? And that's a very particular deportment if you want to be anonymous, right? Where you don't put on your nobilia regalia, where you just put on regular and you just move about as an ordinary person. It's a particular deportment, right? You need to have that ability and skill to be able to switch at will. But part of having this particular deportment is because the new nobility are making a point to say we are different, because they are. And they want to make it clear they are different so that people don't treat them as just a variation, but as truly other, like a different species almost, right? As aliens almost, because they kind of are. Right? And this enables them to communicate more efficiently. So there's a logic to it. It's not superiority. It's an actual functionality. It's an actual efficiency. So yes, dancing, sports, and all of these things you are taught, and how to use tools. Many come to Nobelia. I mean, how many tools have you used in your life, Norma? I mean, I know Norma, Bina. I know Norma's used lots of tools. Bina, I meant to say Bina.
I guess I have used quite many.
Wow. But what about power tools, like a power drill or a lathe or a jackhammer?
No.
No, see? Okay. Saws. Many different kinds of saws. Yeah.
No.
So tool using is a very big part of extended deportment classes. Yeah.
Mm.
It's that physical competency. We're looking to be able to be appropriate in any circumstance. We're not learning to use tools. We're learning to use instruments. We're learning to use our bodies. We're learning to think, to extrapolate. Well, here's a saw. What is it? What's the intent of the saw? Well, let's figure it out. We may be familiar with the saw, but we can find other tools that you'd likely not have. It's the ability to think and to be adapt and to say, oh, well, from just logic and learn, okay, well, then this is, here's the handle. It's like, this is how you use it. Okay, there you go. We aren't ladies, aren't we, Bina? I think you are both wonderful ladies.
What Norma
But you're
saying
people.
something?
Yeah. Yeah.
What you say?
It's about using tools. She says, no way, we are ladies, aren't we, Bina? On Nobelia, your gender means nothing. You are a sentient being. Yeah. End of story. Now, the community, I've yet to decide if they have some kind of arms, tentacles, something that comes out of the thing that they can manipulate tools with, but they must have to be a civilization. So, well, everybody gets to learn to use themselves in, okay, now we're talking physically. Deportment is all about using yourself physically, right? And you learn things that are, it's how to think. Once you learn how to think, you can figure out problems for yourself. You don't have to experience them. All right, let me give an example here. Exactly, Norma says, grin. I used to make my own furniture with kids. I know you've mentioned many things to me over the I don't know how long you know each other. Seems like years, but anyway. I know more than one for sure. And you are wonderfully self-sufficient, Norma, and willing to learn when you need to, right? Like you did stuff that you didn't know, and because you had to, and your kids. Norma did incredible things for her kids. I mean, really, you listen to Norma's story. It's nothing but respect and admiration for you, Norma. Incredible, incredible. And in a time where things were much harder for women than they are today, right? Big difference. Not a particularly easy time, or not in all of history, but compared to today, way harder, right? Anyway, I'm thrilled that you could actually do those things. In times before, wouldn't have been allowed. So anyway, so you learn to use yourself. Now, when we look at one of the skills, all of this is absolutely going to be training you in, is the ability to take an idea of how to do something and from there go directly to application without the intervening steps of trial and error. This is a profound skill and a very, very, very important skill, right? So we want to have the skill where we look at the bicycle and we understand, because we understand the gyroscopic effect, we understand what's needed to ride the bicycle, which is speed, a certain minimum speed. Yes. Once you get that, life is easy. Yeah. You don't need to balance. Now, that means that you can go to a bicycle, get on it, and start riding because you understand what's going on. You can go from never having ridden a bicycle to riding it immediately, rather than going with some, stop, start, balance, and eventually you get the typical bicycle riding learning process, which is very inefficient and very ineffective. Or you can look at a motor car, like the young man. Yes, he understood how it worked. He understood what a clutch was, what gears were. This is a manual drive car, not automatic. No, automatic is like, man, how easy it is to learn to drive this. Like, really? It's a stop and go, like, no problem. Right? Now, doesn't mean your body has to have adjustment and learn, like you have to get the sensitivity of the accelerator, the sensitivity of the brake, and it's exponential because when you're going fast, you press harder. When you're going slow, you press less, or other way around. Right? Those are things you learn with a little bit of experience. So not all things can you do automatically, but for the most part, you can. And you can go like the young man. The first time he drove a manual car, any car, actually, he just got in behind the wheel and drove. That was it. End of story. Because he understood what was going on. And he was determined to do this. So he had the desire as well, right? You can do this. Now, this is very useful. For instance, think of it from, right, there's no war in agglomeration, but there could be. Actually, I would say there's no war because there are some alien planets that are entrenched in superiority paradigm, and they fight with each other. And there may even be some of the human planets, but they don't have the transport. With the aliens, it's in it's in a subpart of the galaxy, like a solar system, where they've populated, like the moon and Mars and this, and then they have wars between Mars and Earth and stuff like that. All right. So war is not totally unknown. And on the planets, on some of them, like on Earth, you got nations fighting each other. But in the ag, hell no. Hell no. You're getting kicked out of the ag, and you're going to have all sorts of negative consequences. You start wars, you can just you're going to get zero trade from outside your planet. And of course, once all those benefits start flowing in, people are going to object like crazy. Hey, I want all my goodies from the ag. Forget about your war. You have no support for wars, right? And they won't even need to have peacemakers. They just have and use that economic leverage to do this. Now, it doesn't mean that people are going to be stupid and not do this. So they do have the ability to end them, but still, it's a complicated point. Well, anyway, my point is that let's assume like from this ability to go from idea to reality, from 0 to 100 in one go. As a military leader, this is important. You're out in the field with a lieutenant and you're in the platoon, and you're kind of like in trouble a bit, and the lieutenant says, oh, I got an idea, right, to get us out of this. You want to know that your lieutenant is practiced in making their idea a reality, and it's not just some theoretical thing that they, even though it's maybe a new idea for this situation, you want to have trust that this new idea has a good chance of working. It's not going to be you figuring it out as you go along, because, well, in that figuring out, you're going to die. Yes. So there are situations where it's very, very important to be able to put idea into reality very quickly. Now, in a non-war situation, this, of course, applies in crises. Your building gets on fire, you got to figure out how to do this, right? So it's a very, very important skill. No matter how sophisticated and advanced your technology and your situation, you're still subject to earthquakes and whatever. Nature's still there, right? And the unexpected is still there. So we need to have the skill to be able to take idea to reality and know what it takes, that you practice this ability to take abstract conceptuality and figure it out and know what the reality would entail. And if you do this enough times, you'll start to see, oh, okay, I got my idea. And then you think about, oh, no, okay, and you develop this. We say, yeah, I know that won't quite work. And then you have this ability to do that. It's just practice. It's just practice and training. It's another one of the skills that the aspirants would learn. Other skills that are specifically taught as classes is to deal with negativity. They'll do this via virtual reality. You go in virtual reality and you're in a environment like it's in book 3, actually, with the public speaking. One of the programs that Biella activates is a public speaking training program. So you stand up on the stage. Now, initially, you're just doing public speaking, and the only people in the audience are your family or your friends. Maybe you're uncomfortable talking to your family or friends. Maybe it's just Biella. Well, maybe nobody. Maybe you put some famous person in there. As you get more comfortable, the size of the audience grows. But then the temperament of the audience grows. At some point, if you want to truly develop the skill of public speaking, which is the skill of independence of being. Same, yeah? See, they're always abstracted, right? It's not a particular thing you're learning. You're always learning the abstract, because now it will apply in other ways. If you have independence of being and you get heckled and hissed and booed and rude words shouted at you, like, yeah, whatever, you're just going to keep going on your thing, right? So part of your public speaking training, which is independence of being training, which is Nobelia, the whole planet is about this, but here you're getting a very direct pressure on you to deal with negativity. It's part of your training. And then there's other classes where you get it very impersonal and fight, threatening violence, even stuff like that. Learning how to deal with conflict. Yeah, very essential part of new nobility training, aspirant training. Yeah. It's not all just, we just, kumbaya, woo-woo. Very practical, very real. You're preparing to go out into the agglomeration, which it's not quite as It's not like Earth. It's the superiority paradigm is not the predominant paradigm, yet it still is there, right? It's not predominant, but it's there. So you do get to deal with the stuff, right? It's like recidivist tendencies coming out and coming forth, right? As an aspirant, as a new noble, you got to be able to deal with it all, right? Diplomacy classes, it's about practice. So much of yes, there's the discussions and that you learn, but then you say, how do I practice this? Well, the classes aren't really for the acquisition of new knowledge, they're for the application of knowledge acquired. Make sense?
Yes.
How cool is that, Bina? What other classes would you like to attend? And would you think are important to be there? Like, well, I said elocution, which means just to speak clearly, fluidly, harmoniously, pleasantly. Like for me, I really need elocution lessons. I know most that hear my sound, because my accent is foreign. They don't hear the roughness in it. But on South Africa, I don't have a particularly good accent. I'm like a hillbilly in South Africa. There's much that I can learn to improve. I would benefit greatly from elocution lessons. What other classes would you
I was
imagine
thinking
are
about,
there?
yes, yes, okay, yes, I was thinking about this, that capital D diplomacy is something I was really keen to, of course. But
Yeah.
actual diplomatic language, like as a profession, this is something I want
Oh,
to.
yeah.
It is not only cross-cultural,
Yeah.
but it is also like, okay, you are going to communicate with people and different, of course, and people
Wow.
of different stature coming from different planets. So this is something I just want to be like
Yes.
really good in this communication. That is also
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I want to be a negotiator between
Wow. Now that
different.
would fall into a very particular class. That would be anthropological diplomacy. Because if you're an anthropologist and you go to some new community that's never experienced somebody from you and your society, civilization, whatever, right?
Yes.
There are already existing things that they've learned that you can't go in and assume this and assume that. You have to have a very different mindset in order to not only not get killed or rejected, but not to adversely influence and affect and negatively affect the situation you're in. Because if you're there to study them as they are and you come and change everything, well, now you're not studying them as they were, you're studying them as they've now changed. So it's a tricky thing for anthropologists, right? If you go there physically, but
Mhm.
it requires particular diplomacy skills when you encountering new cultures. This is an absolute essential class for all. Well, all these classes are essential. Right? How can you possibly be a new noble if you don't have advanced, sophisticated diplomacy skills, not only in capital D diplomacy, which is about extreme consideration, but regular diplomacy also, knowing how to speak to those which are radically different to you, understanding how to communicate when you're not speaking the same language, right?
We have a very different perception of diplomatic language, but actually for me it is so fascinating because you are communicating on behalf of millions of people behind you,
There's that
and
too.
you are whatever you are going to say, in whatever way you are going to say, it is going to affect not only your present but of course the future of millions of people there in your country, or of course in this case your planet. So for me, these people, we might sometimes feel that okay, they say things like blah blah, mutual interest and all these things, but this is a very particular need for that, because you have to communicate without compromising anything whatever you don't want to, and also not just only like okay, even your feelings, you communicate feelings in a completely different way.
Right,
For me, this is
right.
something always very interesting, how these people know that like ambassadors, how they talk, foreign ministers, and all
Yeah.
the way they communicate things. They are
It's
very
all about
adamant.
implication. It's all about
Yes, yeah.
implication. Yeah.
We assume that they are not. They are very adamant, but
Yeah.
also they have a very fine skill, very sophisticated skill of
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
this. So for me, this is the inspiration.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said, physically moving with your body in a more harmonious, fluid way.
Exactly.
There are so many classes. When we think of a typical university, a typical school, what are the skills you're learning? They're skills of fitting into society. Essentially, they are worker skills. Yeah.
Yes.
When we were at school, and some of us more recently than others, but it hasn't changed even now at school, right? Like when CJ goes to school, there's not a class on how to start your own business. Why not?
Yes.
How is that not an option? It was never, ever an option. You defaulted to getting prepared to get a job. It's astonishing to me. It blew my mind at the time. It was horrendous. It was a horrendous failure of the system to not make that an option. Yeah. Now, on Nobelia, since being a worker and making money is not an issue, everything about the school is geared to making you a person, an individual, an sentient being, an independent sentient being, a sentient being who has independence of being, which is different to being an independent sentient being, right? A sentient being who has independence of being. This is the focus, yes? To be your moreness. So you are accomplished in all skills, right? All of them, as many as you can possibly manage. Now, you don't have to be expert, but you do need to be accomplished. You need to know how, like, you don't have to be an expert person with a saw, but you need to know how to use it, right? So that you can accomplish the task. We don't care how efficiently you can saw, the lumber in the parts that you need it, as long as you can get it done. Yeah. So, like at school, you weren't measured at whether you could actually accomplish the thing. You were measured at how you accomplished it. According to you had to do it in a particular way. Blah blah blah. It's like foolish. What do you care if I do it ugly, as long as I do it? Yeah. Right. Now, of course, many of these tasks, the aspirants come up with new and creative ways of doing it, and that's another class, right? You'll start off with a variety of tasks, and these tasks are particularly chosen because they seem to be obvious, but over time, they've come to be discovered that there's a great variety of ways to accomplish these tasks, right? And the class would be, you come every day and you'll say, okay, let's find a new way to do this. Let's find a new way to do this. But you'll be on your own. You won't get to see what others do. To train your brain to think creatively, right? To explore different ways, to not get stuck in patterns. In other words, practice perspective shifting to multiple perspectives. Yeah.
Yes.
What a class that is. What a class that is. Creative writing classes, same thing. Yeah. I don't know, Norma. This is just typically when I eat, roughly about this time. It's when I get hungry. So I don't know if it's a late breakfast or early lunch. It could be a very early dinner too, because I typically don't eat again. Now, today I'm munching on biltong, which is kind of a snacky type of a thing. So I like eat a bit and then I eat a bit later, and I kind of eat on it all day. A little different. It's just I have to eat when I get hungry, Norma. It's the only way it works for me. But usually, like if I have a regular meal, it's once a day. But now this is a little smaller one, so it'll be spread out a bit more. Sometimes I'll have the meal now, and then late afternoon have a bit of a snack. Maybe eat some Cheez-Its or something, rusks or whatever. Yeah. All right, let's read a bit more in the story here. Oh, you know what? It's time.
Nice.
All right, never mind.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
It goes so fast. It goes so fast. Any other? Well, before we go, Norma, if you were to go to Nobelia, is there any classes you would like to take? In the context of being a person, being the person you would like to be. Like I know, deportment and elocution, these are classes that I would like to take. Learning to communicate, speak like more fluidly without saying and ah and so and all of this stuff, right? That's part of
Yes.
elocution, right? So like public speaking also is part of elocution. I don't have a problem with public speaking. It's like this is public speaking, right? But still, more formal public speaking training, that would be great. I would like to do improv. That's the word I was looking for yesterday. Improv is the name for impromptu, either acting or comedy, right? Well, you don't have a script that you work off, just as it comes, right? So improv classes, very powerful. Acting would be a great class to do as well, right? Because when we are forced to be a different character, we have to overcome our habits and resistances and use a way of doing things. It's a very powerful skill, right? Thinking of there are tons that all these things that I mentioned I would like to do, but I'm just saying to start with. Ice skating. Interesting. Now, but think of it, Norma. Ice skating, yes, it's physical movement, and this is a class about trust. Ice skating. So yes, it's a capital T trust class. But I mean, you have to think more in abstract. But yes, ice skating is a very specific skill. It would just fall under your general movement classes. But ice skating or roller skating, they are particular skills. Skateboarding, they trust skills. Movement trust, physical movement trust skills. Surfing also. Right. Oh, no, don't be sorry. No, it's wonderful. I love it. That's what I was asking. What else, Norma? What else? Bina, what else? I got a smack from Norma. Norma's watching my diet.
Yes, anything which is which is not any weapon dependent, like taekwondo or something like this. Yes, where you don't need any weapon, you don't need to attack anyone, but
Right.
for your own defense. Then
Yeah.
like Tai Chi or the different type of things. These are very, very profound things for them.
That class is anticipation class. It's already a defined class. It has a somewhat of a curriculum to it. It's based on the art of fighting without fighting by the young man.
Yes.
There's a lot in that class. And the core of it is, first thing, be acutely aware of how inept you are at fighting. Once you realize how acutely inept you are at fighting, you stay out of the fight. When it comes to fighting a lion or a bear, I mean, with your bare hands now, you are ridiculously inept, right? Therefore, you don't get into a fight with a bear or a lion. Right?
Yes.
You see my point? Now, when it comes to people, especially men, they like to have this idea that they can handle themselves in a fight. Yeah. Now, how well does that work? Even look at professionals. There are plenty of videos of professionals who get into fight and it doesn't work out the way they think it's going to work out. Yes, sometimes it works out in their favor and they totally beat up the other one, but not always, right? So the key is to this is be aware. In other words, don't get into a fight in the first place. So the art of fighting without fighting is all about strategy, awareness, anticipation, knowing your environment, feeling the energy of things ahead of you, seeing the pattern, extrapolation, all of those skills that we talked about, right? All of the awareness skills, when you apply them in this context, suddenly, oh, but I already have the skill. I'm already anticipating. I'm already extrapolating. I'm already feeling the energy. You just have to apply it in that context of being in a self-defense situation or avoiding trouble rather than self-defense. When you're defending, you're already in the trouble. It's too late. Yeah. You want to avoid the trouble in the first place. This is the sophistication of the human nobility. This is where capital diplomacy comes in, anticipation, extrapolation. You don't even want to get into a situation where you have to defend. Yes, too late, too late. Diving off a top board. That's again trust skills, because trust is diving off a top board is not only trust but courage too. Yes. Yeah. Zooming. Yes. This is technology class. This is technology class, right?
Yes.
So you see, Norma, all of these things on Nobelia, it's not the specific skill that you learn, but you learn the underlying attitude and the mindset. You just learn how to think in a technological way. Once you understand the abstract of technological programs and systems, then the thing becomes really simple, because they all follow a similar pattern and thing. You can just extrapolate from it and you can figure it out. But you have to know the language, as it were. Now, we've got like tech is a language, right? Software. When you open up a software, you got a menu. There's a language to it, not always a language that you're reading, but it's by implication there. And same with sports, right? Sports have their own language as well, in terms of physical movement language. Yes, like for instance, the language of movement is if you're running fast, it takes extra time to stop, or moving fast, whether you're running or gliding or whatever you're doing, right? If you're moving fast, you can't stop immediately. This is like a duh. But if you're only moving at walking speed ever, you can stop instantly. Yeah. And you might take that for granted. If you spent your whole life walking and you never ran, you don't, it's like obvious when you think about it, but you may not realize it until it's kind of too late, when you need to stop and wow, now you think you can stop instantly. Habit, right? So everything has their own language, and it's important. That's what the classes they are. They're teaching you the language of these different activities. Very powerful. Technology and trust. Yes. And also would be thinking skills, Norma, like perception skills, to discern things, to look deeper, to see past the obvious, to past the surface, to connect things. Those are discernment skills. Very useful in dealing with things like technology and sports, all of these things. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the physical movement, like ice skating, you can understand what's involved really, really well, really do it. But your physical body may not be fit enough to handle it. Like your ankles may be too, and I'm not talking about just because of age. I mean, even young people, you haven't trained those specific muscles, so your legs are a bit wobbly. So you have to be aware of this, right? That you have to develop a fitness for that. Now, part of Nobelia-Living is fitness, right? It's a big part of the culture. Fitness, gyms, doing outside, like in China where they do the Tai Chi, there are gyms all over the show. And the gyms are, you want to be on a treadmill or whatever, it's in the parks, outdoors, in the gazebo. And okay, we're chatting in the group and we have a discussion about, you know what, we really need to exercise. We haven't exercised today. All right, let's go. You find the nearest exercise facility and you're all on the machines and you're still talking. Is because they're arranged in such a way that they facilitate group chat discussion continuation, right? If you can roller skate, you can ice skate. Exactly. Like I said, most of the classes aren't about learning new skills, but rather about practicing knowledge and understanding that you've already acquired. Yeah? The discussions, here's where new knowledge, new awareness comes. Then you say, where can I go and practice this? Then you find the class that allows you to practice it. Make sense? Ina?
Yes. Yes.
How cool is that? All right. Norma, wonderful Norma. Amron, magical person. I love that you're here. I love your discussion. I love your comments. I love you. We never walked anywhere as children, correct? On Nobelia, lots of walking. Well, no, lots of walking. They walk and talk too. Now, because of the implants, and let's just say you're on a path and you single file. You'd put on the implant and you'd have a Zoom, like a Zoom chat, but just the audio, right? So that I can hear the person way in the front if I'm in the back and everybody chiming in. Same like now, like on my headset, right? I mean, I can hear Bina and whoever's on this chat. You can, I mean, you have the technology to do it now. So they will utilize this, except they just have the implant, makes it a little simpler. You don't have to drag headphones around with you. But this enables you to stay in contact as a group, even though you aren't necessarily physically close enough. Like maybe the gym is a bit big, 20 in the group, and you can't have 20 gym machines like right close to each other. We can kind of hear each other and talk in regular verbal. You'd have to shout a bit. Well, it doesn't matter. You just put on the, put on the equivalent of Zoom, right? An audio Zoom, and maybe with your implant, you may even see them where they are at, right? Because your eyes will be cameras. And anyway, so this would be a way to, not so, a nice way to maintain your community, even though you might be a bit spread out, right? Let's say you all go surfing. Well, you can't sit in one spot surfing, but you can continue your discussion, right? Your group of 20 or 30 or however many, even if you're just 5 or 6, you're still going to be spread out surfing. While you're waiting for the waves, you want to continue discussion, you can. Of course, you may want to just be there and commune with nature, but that's a different thing. Then you're not going to necessarily go as a group. Then you'll just paddle out there on your own and not connect, right? Oh. Love you too, Norma. Love you too, Norma. All right. Any comments before we go, Bina?
No, that was really, really.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. One more comment
Yes. Okay.
from Norma. Last comment there. Very important comment. Can you read it?
No, no.
I'll
No, I
screen
didn't,
share.
because yes.
See? Will you read it, please?
Oh, thank you, Norma. Love you too. Yes, thank you.
Oh, so important. So important. So important.
Yes, it is important. It is important to know that. Yes, thank you.
Please. You love you, Norma. Love you, Norma. Absolutely. You're such a beautiful heart, Norma. You really are, You're quite magical. All right, we'll go, and we have lots to do, and I got shipping to do, and I'm behind, and oh man, big day. I nearly didn't do today's live, by the way. I had so much to do. All right. Oh, all right. So I'm going to end everything now, yeah?
Yes.
And we'll come tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to do that capital R reading of the me of when and now. Well, it does connect to the story, which there's an aspirant in it. And this came up in the discussion yesterday, which made me think to do the reading too. At least in some discussion somewhere, like what's the end goal, the end point for the new nobility? What is the aspiration as a society? And this comes up somewhat in the me of when and now. All right, so lots of stuff tomorrow, lots of stuff, really deep, really deep. All right, see you all tomorrow. See you all tomorrow.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.